A 13-year-old boy stood on the biggest stage of his life, and when he opened his mouth, the entire room went silent. What happened next changed everything. But what you don't know is the heartbreaking story hiding behind that angelic voice. Malakai Bayoh was just an ordinary kid living in London when his mother noticed something unusual. Every time he sang around the house, people would stop and listen. His voice wasn't like other children his age. It had a quality that made you pay attention, something pure and beautiful that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside. His mother knew she had to do something about it, so she made a decision that would change his life forever. She signed him up for the choir at a big cathedral in South London, even though young Malakai wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea at first. He joked later that his bossy mum forced him to go, but he would be forever grateful for that push. At the cathedral, everything started to click for Malakai. He learned how to control his breathing, how to hit difficult notes, and most importantly, how to pour emotion into every word he sang. The choir master saw something special in this young boy and worked with him day after day, teaching him the discipline needed to become a real singer. By the time Malakai was 7 years old, his voice was already making people cry during performances. But he was still just a kid going to school, playing with friends, and living a normal life in his modest London home with his Sierra Leonean family. Then, something unexpected happened during a school Christmas show. Malakai sang a song called "Oh Holy Night," and someone in the audience recorded it on their phone. That video got posted online, and suddenly millions of people were watching this little boy with the incredible voice. The views kept climbing higher and higher. Comments poured in from around the world. People couldn't believe what they were hearing. How could someone so young sound so mature and professional? The video spread like wildfire across social media, and just like that, Malakai wasn't just the kid with a nice voice at his local church anymore. He was becoming famous. By the time he turned 12, Malakai was performing at places most adult singers dream about. He sang at the Royal Opera House in London, one of the most prestigious venues in the entire world. Critics who watched hundreds of performances every year said he was extraordinary. They wrote articles calling him a star in the making. Just a month later, he recorded Christmas songs with a famous Welsh singer, and those videos got over 30 million views. Everything was happening so fast. His calendar filled up with rehearsals, performances, and recordings. But through it all, Malakai stayed humble and kept working hard, always remembering the lessons his family and his choir master taught him about discipline and staying grounded. In 2023, when he was 13, Malakai decided to audition for Britain's Got Talent. His family was nervous, but excited. They knew he had the talent, but this was different. This was national television. Millions of people would be watching. The judges on the show were tough, especially Simon Cowell, who was known for being brutally honest and hard to impress. Backstage before his audition, Malakai's mother gave him a hug and told him to just do his best. His sister cheered him on, proud of her little brother for being so brave. Then it was time to walk out onto that massive stage. The lights were bright, and the audience was huge. 4 judges sat at their table, waiting to see what this young boy could do. Malakai had chosen a very difficult song called Pai Jesu, something that even trained adult singers found challenging. When the music started and he began to sing, something magical happened. His voice floated through the theater like nothing anyone had heard before. Every note was perfect. Every word carried so much feeling. The judges sat frozen, their mouths slightly open, unable to believe what they were hearing. One of the judges had tears forming in her eyes. Another judge, who usually made big dramatic reactions, simply sat still, completely overwhelmed by the beauty of what he was witnessing. When Malakai hit the final note and held it with perfect control, the entire audience exploded. People jumped to their feet, clapping and cheering. Some were crying. Malakai looked almost shocked by the response, like he couldn't quite believe this was really happening. Then Simon Cowell did something he rarely does. He leaned forward and without saying much he pressed the golden buzzer. golden confetti rained down from the ceiling. The audience screamed even louder. Malakai's mother rushed onto the stage and wrapped her son in her arms while he cried tears of joy and disbelief. That golden buzzer meant he was going straight to the semi-finals, skipping several rounds of competition. It meant Simon Cowell believed he was that special. Within hours, the video of his audition was everywhere. Social media exploded with people sharing it, commenting on it, and talking about this incredible young singer. News websites wrote articles about him. Morning shows wanted to interview him. He became a household name overnight. Everyone in Britain knew who Malakai Bayoh was now. But what most people didn't understand was that along with all this fame and excitement came an enormous amount of pressure that no 13-year-old should have to handle. Preparing for the semi-finals meant even more intense training. Malakai chose another extremely difficult song to perform, and his vocal coaches pushed him hard. They treated him like a professional opera singer, not like a kid who should have been worried about homework and hanging out with friends. He spent hours every day practicing, learning how to breathe correctly, how to shape each phrase, how to convey deep emotions through his voice. The expectations kept growing. Music experts were already calling him the future of opera. Fans were convinced he would win the entire competition. Every time he opened his mouth to sing, people expected perfection. When semi-final night arrived, Malakai delivered another stunning performance. The judges ran out of words to describe how good he was. One called him a gift from God, another said she felt spellbound watching him. The audience voted in huge numbers, and he advanced to the finals. Everything seemed to be going perfectly. His dream was coming true. But behind the scenes, the weight of all this attention was starting to affect him in ways he didn't talk about publicly. The constant rehearsals, the interviews, the pressure to be amazing every single time, it was exhausting for someone so young. And then, just days before the final performance, the most devastating thing that could happen did happen. Malakai's grandmother died. She had been one of the most important people in his life, always encouraging him, always believing in him, always sitting and listening as he practiced. She told him stories about being strong and using his talents to help others. Losing her felt like the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. The pain was unbearable. When he got the news, he couldn't stop crying. How was he supposed to perform on the biggest stage in the country when his heart was completely shattered? The producers of the show told him he could withdraw if he needed to. No one would blame him. The judges, who had seen thousands of contestants over the years, understood how impossible this situation was. But Malakai thought about what his grandmother would want. She always taught him to finish what he started, to be brave even when things were hard. Walking away would hurt even more than staying, so he made the decision to perform in the finals, dedicating his song to her memory. When he walked onto that final stage, everything was different. The song he chose was one his grandmother loved, one he had sung for her many times. As the music started and he began to sing, his voice carried all the grief and pain he was feeling. It was raw and real and heartbreaking. The judges could see the tears in his eyes. They could hear the emotion in every note. This wasn't just a performance anymore. This was a young boy saying goodbye to someone he loved through the only language that made sense to him, music. Simon Cowell, who rarely shows much emotion, looked visibly moved. One judge wiped tears from her eyes. Another whispered that it was the bravest thing she had ever witnessed on the show. When the votes were counted that night, Malakai finished in 4th place. He didn't win the competition, but later he said something that showed wisdom beyond his years. He said he gave everything he had, and that was enough. The people who knew what he had been going through understood the real story. He had stood on that stage days after losing his grandmother, and sang with his whole heart. That took more courage than most people could imagine. After the show ended, many people expected Malakai to take a break, to rest and heal from his grief. But something surprising happened instead. The tragedy seemed to make him even more determined. Just weeks later, a major record label called Universal Music offered him a deal, something extremely rare for someone his age. In July 2023, he released his first album called Golden, and it immediately shot to #1 on the classical music charts in the UK. It even topped the charts in America. Here was a kid who had just experienced one of the worst moments of his life, and he was channeling all that pain into creating something beautiful. He started working with some of the biggest names in classical music. Famous composers praised him for his humility and talent. Legendary musicians gave him advice about how to have a long career. He performed at the Royal Albert Hall with a full orchestra, and the audience gave him a standing ovation before he even sang a single note. Music schools across Britain reported that more young kids wanted to join choirs because of Malakai. The president of Sierra Leone sent him a personal message celebrating his success. He was inspiring people all around the world. But here's what makes Malakai's story even more remarkable. Through all of this fame and success, he kept going to school every single day. He still did his homework, still hung out with his friends, still played table tennis during breaks. His classmates teased him about being famous, but he just laughed it off. When people recognized him on the street and asked for photos, he was always kind and gracious, but he never let the attention change who he was inside. He still loved playing video games and cheering for his favorite football team, Liverpool. The fame was part of his life now, but it didn't define his entire existence. During the finals, some people noticed his voice cracking slightly, which is completely normal for teenage boys going through puberty. Instead of being worried or embarrassed, Malakai talked openly about it. He explained that his voice would naturally get deeper as he got older, and he was planning to adapt by learning new types of songs that fit his changing voice. This showed the mindset of a true artist, someone who sees challenges as opportunities to grow rather than obstacles to fear. What really sets Malakai apart, though, is what he wants to do with his success. He's not just thinking about becoming more famous or making more money. He talks about wanting to help other kids who love music but can't afford lessons. He dreams of opening a school someday where children from poor families can learn opera and join choirs without worrying about how much it costs. He believes every kid who has a passion for music deserves a chance, no matter where they come from or how much money their family has. This vision shows that despite being so young, Malakai understands something profound about using his gifts to make the world better. The story of Malakai Bayoh is not just about a talented kid who can sing beautifully. It's about a young person who faced unimaginable pressure and heartbreaking loss and somehow found the strength to keep going. It's about a boy who could have let fame change him, but chose to stay humble and kind instead. It's about someone who transformed his deepest pain into purpose, and used his voice not just to entertain, but to inspire. His grandmother would be incredibly proud of the person he's becoming, not just because of his talent, but because of his character and his heart. As Malakai continues to grow, and his voice continues to mature, there's no telling how far he'll go. What we do know is that he's already shown more resilience, grace, and wisdom than most people show in a lifetime. His journey reminds us that even in our darkest moments, we can find the strength to keep moving forward, and that the most beautiful art often comes from the deepest pain. If you want to see more amazing stories about people who overcome incredible challenges, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another inspiring journey.